you to the content today? Do you have any big questions that you might want answered? So what attracted you to the content today? Do you have any big questions that you might want answered? Hey, how's it going? I'm giving you guys a second because it will require that you unpause your mic if you want to actually say something over audio. So do we have any big burning questions before we begin? I see one person said color, but that's just a word. So I'm not sure what the question is. All right, I see some questions coming in. You guys have, oh boy, somebody found their first gray hair. Curious about the trend. Okay. Good. Wonder if we have any other concerns coming into this today. All right, we're asking if we have any concerns. Okay, so while you guys, some people want to know how to stop coloring. Yep, absolutely. If you want to speak instead of put it in the chat, what you're gonna have to do is unmute your microphone to speak, and that's okay if you're on Zoom. It's the lower left-hand corner.
Hi.
How's it going? Yeah, so if you don't want us to hear all the noise in your house, please mute your microphone, and if you want to speak, please unmute it. Thank you. All right, awesome. So here we go. I'm gonna screen share with you guys a little bit as we go here, but basically we're talking about, so you wanna go gray. And I think that it's easy to think that it means like going all natural, but that's not necessarily the case. There are a lot of options when it comes to embracing your gray hair. So the question that I oftentimes think gets confused is like, what is embracing gray? Because up until this point, a lot of salons and the salon world is very like cover gray. Everything's about coverage. So embracing gray for us is more about the opposite of coverage. It's a self-love movement that says, oh, I'm gonna be okay with this. I'm gonna align with my authentic self. It also is a concept that will help reduce anxiety, because if you are in any way embracing your gray, you're not gonna have the regrowth panic of, oh my gosh, look at that line of regrowth. I gotta get to the salon, or if I miss my appointment, it's gonna look so bad. What am I gonna do for my meetings? If you are embracing your gray, you get your time back because you're not in the salon as frequently. If you're embracing your gray, life is just more convenient. I mean, let's be honest. It's easier maintenance. And finally, I do believe that you save money when you embrace your gray. I do think it's budget friendly, but it doesn't mean you have to be 100% all natural. That's just one of the 4 big options that we're gonna cover today. So there are 4 big options for gray. And I'd like you guys to think about, as we go through this today, what are you interested in? Because you can think, maybe someday I want to go to the most extreme, maybe someday I want to be all white or all natural, but I'm not ready yet. That's okay. One of these other options might be for you. So for instance, would you like to take that silver sparkle that you're starting to see, or that gray, and enhance it? Maybe you really like it and you don't have a ton. Maybe you want it to pop. So can we silverize it? Can we enhance it more so the eye likes it even more? Another option, and this is probably the most common, is do you want to go totally all natural? Find out what's under there, and is your end goal to be all natural? Another option is, well, okay, I'm okay with the fact that I have gray, but maybe I want to blend it. Do you want to blend your gray? So that would be like for the person that's like, well, I'm not trying to be high maintenance and I don't want to be in the salon too much. I don't mind a little bit showing, but I don't want to look fully all gray. Blending is an awesome option. And then the final option is what I would consider gray play. Gray play is when you have white or gray hair and you're not necessarily looking for a natural look. It's when you want to have fun with it. So unnatural shades, things that prior to gray play, you might like have had to do multiple steps, multiple chemical processes to be able to do that. For instance, apricot hair. Gorgeous color, doesn't really occur in nature. It's kind of like a pinky, like a pinky peachy shade. You can get that on white hair so beautifully, but to get that, if your hair isn't already white or silver, you're gonna have to do a really high lift blonde first, and then a couple layers to get that really pretty apricot tone or that really pretty lavender, things like that. Some of those smoky shades we see on people, they have to do all of this bright blonde lifting and then silverizing. And those are steps you have to do before you can even get to coloring it some tone or shade of slate. So that's what I would call gray play. So we've got enhancing, go natural, all natural, blending, or gray play. Are we all on board? Are we all ready? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to pause for a second just to say for anyone who's joining us on Facebook Live, on Instagram, that we do have a Zoom link to come join the class in Zoom so that you can see our PowerPoint with examples of my own personal models that I've worked on, real clients. And the Zoom links for Facebook is in the event description. So you need to go to the event, step into my Parlor. It's on the Parlor page. Go into the event description and grab your Zoom link to join us on Zoom. For those of you joining on Instagram, it's in the event, in the Parlor bio. So just go over to the bio, grab the Zoom link, join us on Zoom. Okay, so here we go. Another thing I want to let you guys all know is that we are doing this Wednesday series live every Wednesday at noon. So there's going to be great content. There's going to be a replay of the event on the Parlor page after the event. So you don't get to ask your questions live, but I do go through the comments. I do answer them. And if you're here joining us live, you can ask as we go, which I love. Feel free to throw comments out there. I love it. I'm so used to teaching actual people. I typically teach classes through the Rochester Brainery, or I host them here at the salon, or sometimes I'll host classes at a local library by request. For the Brainery, I'm there very regularly. I teach pretty much every quarter, unless I'm on maternity leave or something. So this is a really fun outlet for me to be able to teach you guys on Zoom, and I love the live feedback. It's really helpful. Okay, so we are gonna start screen sharing here. We're diving in. Alrighty. I'm gonna share my whole desktop so you guys are gonna see yourself for a second. And that is because I want to be able to see who's in the room occasionally and if we have any questions coming in, okay? All right. So let me know here, can you guys see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good. I'm just technically adjusting here for a little bit, okay? I don't want it to be in the way too much. Okay, so, and for anyone who's joining me right now on Zoom, mute your microphone unless you want to chat, because, or throw your question into the chat window. And I say that just because it can get, the ambient noise can get a lot for people. All right, so we talked about why we would want to embrace gray. We talked about the 4 different ways of embracing gray. And figuring out which one to do is going to have to do with how much gray you're starting with. And it's also going to have to do with what is your end goal. So we're going to walk through them each. Enhancing gray is improving or polishing your existing gray. So this is an image that I pulled up. It's just a bunch of ladies from Pinterest with all different examples of gray. I love that it's sort of a celebration of gray hair. And you can see here, some people are enhancing it, meaning they're actually adding, these ladies that I've circled, they're actually adding slate tones into their hair or blue silver tones into their hair to enhance it and make it look even more gray or even more silver. So the right person for that would be someone who maybe has a sprinkle of it and they want to make it a little bit more sparkly. Somebody who might have like a chunk of it in one spot and then they want to like make it pop a little bit more because maybe the way it's placed in their hair is a little bit, it gets lost. So we can do some different things with color to help that piece of white or that piece of gray really like hit the eye. And I'm going to give you some examples with clients here. This is a client who I just have loved her hair over the years. If you look in the back of her head here, I have not added many lowlights at all. That is her 50-50 sort of blend. And if you look above her bangs here, in her bangs, that's her natural 50-50 kind of blend. But because it was so well blended, it almost didn't like pop enough. It just kind of like looked kind of dull, almost dragged her out. But it was such a beautiful color that we decided to enhance it by putting a few lowlights through the top pieces so that the gray looks a little more streaky intentionally. And you can't really tell, but underneath her bangs, the hair closest to her face, around her face, I did like a solid dark color so that the veil of silver sat on top of it and really jumped. And so she has some color right around her face because she never pulls her hair back. She's not worried about the regrowth line there. She just wants it when she's wearing this bob to always look like it really pops. So that's a really good example of enhancing. And then on top of the white, we put a silver tone because we want it to look more crystal and a little bit like, again, not as drab. So I'm going to stop the share for a second, take a look at what kind of questions we might have coming in. Can you guys see me talking while I'm screen sharing, or do you only see my screen? Which one, the PowerPoint? Do you see me with it? Okay, great. I don't see myself, so I was just curious. Okay, so I see some questions. Thank you. What should I ask for in order to enhance gray hairs in brunette hair when salons reopen? Yeah, really good question. Let's see if we have any more questions here in the online. Oh, hi, Evie. It's so nice to see you. One of my clients who is actually in the process of completely going natural just popped on to Facebook, so that's really exciting. Evie, you're not in the PowerPoint. You should be. I keep albums on my clients, so if someone's willing, what I do is I track the whole journey so that way we can see pictures later and really enjoy it.
Hey, Spotty.
What'd you say? Okay, that was probably not direct to me. So Lauren has asked, what should I ask for in order to enhance gray hairs in brunette hair when the salon reopens? So Lauren, the question I would have for someone is, are you trying to truly enhance, like you want them to pop, or are you actually trying to blend them in? I know like you said enhance, but a lot of times people mix those two things up. So she wants them to pop. Okay, so you want to go with your coloring. What I like to recommend is if you, the simplest thing is a silverizing shampoo, something that will help cut the kind of like brassy tones. But for a brunette, your silver might not be, I'm going to show you the picture again. Your silver might not be as blue as my client here, Rosal, because she's naturally got this tone of hair that's like high contrast. Brunettes don't necessarily have super high contrast. I probably would, if you only have a few sparkles, the way she doesn't have a ton in the back, I probably would low light with a darker color nearby the gray to help, or the white, to help the white pop. These are two more images that show another version of enhancing. So over here, this is Roselle when she doesn't have a bob. Can you believe that? And you see how when her hair is pushed away from her face, we see less of a veil on her bangs. She's really quite funky. She likes to do all kinds of things. So for a while, we were embracing her curls and waves and doing this undercut. And we still did dark around the face so that this section of her hair up top would really pop. And I was doing less lowlights through here because there was so much more dark showing around her face. On the right here, this is my other client, Diana. I just love Diana. When I first, this is especially for Lauren too. For those of you on Facebook or Instagram, I see a couple people are asking how to join on Zoom. There's a link in the event description. So go to the Parlor Facebook page, look at the event description, and there is a Zoom link so that you can join Zoom and see the PowerPoint. So for those of you on Instagram, it's in the bio. The link is in the bio, the Parlor bio. On the right here, we're looking at Diana. And when I didn't have an early before picture of her, so apologies guys, but she was a brunette. And her natural coloring, like she was more of like a dark brown. But what happens a lot of times when people are retouching brunettes is that it starts to turn brassy. It just happens when color fades. Have you guys had that experience? Have you seen like that brassy tone? Yeah. So what happens is you use these colors that are really traditional. Those colors are used for the typical coverage, just retouching gray, making it go away. And what happens is it looks great at first, and then as the pigments fade, what's left is this like brassy tone underneath. And the color line that I use for gray, for the most part, doesn't leave things brassy. And it has to do with some of the color technology that I use. So Diana's hair was like a brassy fade, and the silver and white that she had on her head always drove her crazy because she was always it always looked yellow. And so for her, we brought her away from brunette and into like the salt and pepper by actually darkening up her base color so that there was higher contrast. And then she grew out this bright bit of blonde up top. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but down at the bottom of her ends, it's not as bright as it is up here. And that's because we were growing it out. So I was covering her ends with like a slate gray to like mute out any of the brassy tones. And then with every retouch, we were going lighter and lighter and lighter and brightening up her white right in the front. And then once she had this nice bright patch going of like a silvery type tone, she could decide then if she wanted to grow out the white in the rest of her hair, but she felt more comfortable with it because she had this nice bright patch in the front. All right, so I think I might have some questions. What? Okay, awesome. No more questions so far, but I'm open. If you have any, feel free to ask. Again, for those of you joining on Instagram, the link for Zoom is in our bio. For those of you joining on Facebook, the link is in the event description. All right. The next phase, so we talked about enhancing gray. Now we're going to talk about blending gray. I decided to put this one next instead of go all natural because it's pretty typical when you're starting to see some gray and you're not 100% gray that you might be like, oh, I'm starting to see some. I don't want a hard regrowth line. So how do I blend it in without creating that hard line? This is an example, and the idea of blending is disguising or camouflaging the differences between your gray and your other hair, just bringing them together. So if you have a really bright white piece and a really dark piece, if I want to camouflage, I can cover that really bright white piece with something that's more like in between the two. So it's not pepper and it's not white, it's somewhere in the middle. And whether you're a brunette or whether you're a dark, like salt and pepper type color scheme, you can do this. This woman right here is a great example of blending. She's got some white, but it's not a really hard regrowth line. You've got some soft feathering going on through here. This woman here, she has a kind of mix of colors that very well might be blended as well. Now, this is a client similar to Diana who came in, wanted to eventually go all natural, but really couldn't arrive there immediately. It would have taken a lot of bleaching her hair. It would have been really harsh on her hair, and she's naturally curly. So what she did was she cut off a lot of the dark color off her ends. So she was like, for a short-term amount of time, I'll wear this in a bob. She didn't love a straight bob. She prefers curl, but she was like, I will, just because I want to like grow it out. And what I did with her is I low lighted up at her roots. She had a whole lot of white right in the front and not a lot in the back. So I low lighted some darker brunette, cool brunette tones. So I wasn't going with warm because she's not naturally warm. Cool tones up through the top. And then I painted on all of the ends that had that brassy color. I painted a color to mute them out. So you can see that her ends are a little darker than her roots, and that's just her transitioning. And this is her in the transition as well. The cool thing about this set is over on the left, if your screen is bright enough, you can see that there's warmth. There's warm tones in her ends still. Over on the left and over on the right, although her hair is a little darker because we low lighted it, you don't see as much warmth because I low lighted and I put some dark pieces over her warm ends. So we're just blending. It's to help create some balance while she grows it out. And then once she's cut out all of those old brassy pieces, we'll do less and less low lighting on top and let her go all natural. But in the meantime, we're just blending because it would look a little weird to have three colors going on. Have white up at the root and then have like a dark end and have some warmth in there somewhere. That just looks bizarre. This is another example of blending. This client, Anne Michelle, she is naturally as white as you see up in her crown, but she had fully solid, 100% solid black brown retouches for years and years and years and years, for like 20 years or more. For those of you looking for a Zoom link, you have to go to on Facebook. It's very simple. You go to the Parlor page. We're live through an event called Step Into My Parlor. So go to the Parlor page, and in the event description, there is a Zoom link. There are also some Zoom links on our wall under some of the videos that I posted in the last few days. So the Zoom link is there as well. It's the same one. For those of you joining us on Instagram, it is in the bio. The Zoom link is in the bio. So Anne Michelle had this really, really, really bright white hair, and it was really challenging. How were we going to transition her? So I did something very similar to what I did with the client before. It's just that the client before, she only had white in the front and didn't have a lot in the back. Anne Michelle had it everywhere. So with her, we hand painted her ends. See how dark they are? It almost looks like a reverse ombre. She's light up top, dark. We hand painted her ends with a really dark shade to cover up all of the warm tones. And then every time her roots came in a little bit more, we did what we call pintura low lighting. And it's a hand painted low light that you can put on curls and waves. And that way it helped to connect the bright white hair to her ends. So that was really fun. Over time, we did less and less of it. And she ended up going 100% all natural eventually. But in the process, we started with blending. And we would also put a silver coat on her hair as well to help her white look whiter while we were in the process. Once she went all natural, she decided she didn't want to do any light silver coats, but she does use a bluish violet toned shampoo and conditioner to help brighten up her white. Okay, this is an example of blending for those ladies out there who don't have as much white as the last two clients, and they might be on the blonde side of things or the sandy side, the warm side. So someone like myself, I'm never gonna look like salt and pepper when I go white and gray, which I'm starting to. I'm never going to look that way. It blends pretty naturally into my hair. But what you end up having sometimes is all of this really, really, really warm color, and it doesn't really match the more cool shade that's coming in at the roots. So her regrowth was just really obvious. So even though she looked nice in her blonde sandy color, it just had such an intense regrowth. Does that make sense? So it was weird. She's not, when I say ash, she's not like, she's, ash blonde, ash mid-tone brown. She's not like salt and pepper where it's really high contrast. But what we needed to do over time with every retouch was soften that line. So with her, what I did was a little bit of blonde, but mostly I did lowlights and color balancing with like more ash tones in her pre-existing blonde. So I'm not a huge fan when I'm taking people towards natural of doing a lot of bleach lightening. It's a very dramatic way to do it, and it's harsh on the hair. So you'll notice that a lot of the techniques that I'm using just have to do with adding or balancing and muting out really warm tones. I realize that I'm using some hairdresser speak here when I use words like that. So any questions about what that means? I'm going to take a second just to pause to let you guys like ask those questions. Okay, so I have a question that came in. I can answer while you guys are typing. The question that I'm going to answer while you guys are typing your questions is, I'm a brunette. My templates are white, and I have an inch of regrowth on demi-permanent color. Templates are white and an inch of regrowth. Cool. So yeah, I assume that a lot of people who are in quarantine right now are going to have a lot of regrowth, and you'll be deciding like, okay, with this regrowth, what do I do with it? What do I do with it? And do I like it? And do I want to transition? When I go back to the salon, how will I transition? It is so vital that you're with a colorist who understands all the options. I think that a lot of salons aren't explaining them. Demi-permanent is a good option. If your gray takes a little bit of it, demi-permanent is nice because when you color with demi-permanent, it doesn't permanently change the hair underneath it. So like when the pigments fade off, it hasn't created that brassy tone that we're talking about. If they added warm brassy pigments to the demi, maybe there'll be a little bit of warmth, but you're not going to get that what we call underlying brassiness that happens when someone uses permanent color. It's called permanent, which means oxidative. It means it goes in and changes your natural color molecules. And then when the pigments that you add fade off, those natural color molecules have become different and they're brassy. Demi is a good option because demi won't change your actual natural pigments very much. It won't leave things really brassy. But not everybody's hair takes demi really well. So I use a technology called Illumin. It's by a company named Goldwell, and it also can deliver pigments and adhere really well to gray and white hair without changing the natural color pigments of your natural hair under the surface. So when the Illumin pigments fade off, you're not left with brassiness. You're not left with a really hard regrowth line. So what I'm hoping for Susan, who's saying my temples are white and I have an inch of regrowth on demi-permanent color, what I'm hoping is she doesn't have a really harsh regrowth line because she's using demi. So I don't know what the exact question is, Susan, but it sounds like more demi would be an option for you if you like how that covered, or if you're thinking about fully transitioning over to natural. We're about to talk about that in the next segment, so stay tuned for that. All right, I'm just going to take a look here and see if we have any more questions that came in. For anyone joining, we have a Zoom link in the Facebook event description, and we have a Zoom link on Instagram. The link is in the bio. On Instagram in the bio, on Facebook in the event description. All right, I'm gonna share my screen with you guys again. All right, so moving on, we have talked about enhancing our gray and silver. We have talked about blending our gray and silver, and now we're talking about the big whammy. Sometimes for people, this is the ultimate goal. Maybe they're starting with blending and they think, oh, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, I might want to embrace it and be all natural. Great. So this is that step. Just as an example of women who are trying to get to all natural. Over here, if you lighten your screen enough to see, this woman has natural roots and very warm ends. She's trying to get to all natural. She's just tried to soften that line in between the two. Same here with this woman. Her name's Lorraine Macy. She's very famous because she started the curly girl method. She was one of the original founders of Diva Curl. In the last 10 years, she grew out all of her silver and had to go through a big transition process. So she's natural at the roots here and very blonde at her ends. This is a great image of someone who actually has arrived at natural. You can see her natural color here. Over here on the bottom right, she's arrived at natural. She just doesn't have 100% white. Over here, we've got an image on the lower right-hand corner of a woman who has a whole lot of regrowth. I call that the quarantine regrowth. And she's deciding, what am I gonna do? She's got a warm brunette on her ends and a really decent salty white up top. So she's got to decide what to do. If I was working with her, I would do blending techniques if she wanted to go all natural. I'd start with blending techniques and then move her towards all natural. And in the upper right-hand corner, you see Jennifer Anderson has recently gone through this transition as well. She's got a very warm gray. She's not a natural salt and pepper look at all. So she's got that warm gray that Lisa had over here in our blending. She's like Jennifer Aniston. They're on the blonder, sandier side of grays. And Jennifer Aniston is growing out all that warm ends, all those warm ends. So going natural. This is my actual client, Teresa. She's been an excellent model for me over the years. She went through an experience that a lot of us go through, which is embracing curls. And then in the process of trying to embrace our waves and curls and loving our natural texture, she was like, wow, I'm really damaging my hair a lot and stressing it out a lot with all the color. Is there a way for me to not do that much and get a better curl? Teresa had this much white, close to that much white, over in 2012 in this first picture. She was doing retouches with me every 4 to 6 weeks. And 6 would be like a long time. Because she was wearing, like, she'd wear a headband, she'd use a root cover-up kit, you know, she'd do whatever she had to do to cover that up. She was getting really into running, and it was driving her crazy when she'd have to use like root powders and stuff on her hair, and she didn't like if the color would run. It was just a hassle. She was always in the salon. It was costing her a lot of time and money. And so even though we thought the color was beautiful and it looked great on her natural Italian coloring, it wasn't authentic after a while. It just felt like too much work. So her end goal was to be a beautiful white. Do you see how she looks in 2019 here? The thing was, I mean, she had a Pinterest board of all these beautiful silver white-haired ladies. We did not choose to go that white until 2019. Like, it was a journey. Teresa had a lot of white to go from this dark color to over here. So what I used on Teresa is something that I've created for, and I'm doing my best to copyright right now, called the Greyscale Grow Out Method. And what it is, it's named after the ink cartridges on your computer when you go to hit print on your printer and it says, would you like to print in grayscale? So I named it after the Greyscale method of printing, which is, okay, I'm only going to print with like black and white ink. I'm only going to print in shades of a color. So what ends up happening is you have this really, 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 really dark color, and you're trying to get it to a really light color. How do I get there without using tons of bleach lightener on the hair? What I do is, with every little ½ inch of regrowth, I take that shade a little lighter, a little lighter, a little lighter, a little lighter, so that over time you see a really soft ombre from the lightest color that your hair is naturally down to the darkest ends. And you can transition with a very soft look. It doesn't look like a hard line. So it still looks a little bit, you know, you still move from light down to dark. And in this stage, this is Teresa after our first really big chemical process. In this stage, we had done so much to her hair. It doesn't really look like it, but Teresa was so dark, and she had it in her head that she wanted to be, Teresa might even be watching, I think, on Instagram. If you are, hi. She had it in her head at that time that she wanted to get there as fast as possible. And I don't normally agree to bleach retouch hair from root to ends. I don't like to do it. It's so harsh on hair. It's so harsh on curls. But she had been my client for such a long time, and I knew that she'd stick with me and not get discouraged. So I was like, I will try that for you, but I can't promise it's going to be like exactly where you want it to be overnight. And what ended up happening was she had her natural white root, a really nice light blonde up here that we could work with, and then down here, her hair from all of those years of different variations of color that were so dark was like a peachy tone, which honestly, I thought it was beautiful. And I was like, just wear it. It's beautiful. Like, we can tone that and get these like ombre into peachy ends. But the fact that she didn't want peach, she just wanted to be in the world of grays and silvers right away. It just drove her crazy that it was like peachy on the ends. And so what we did next was to tone it. So I had to use a really like slate toned toner on her ends to really like mute out any of the warmth. And then with every retouch, you can see we go from dark to lighter to lighter to lighter to lighter up to lightest. And then for a long time, we were using this kind of light violety slate tone to enhance her white, but have her have the look of natural. And then one day she was like, no, I'm ready. I'm ready. And she let it all fade as much as she could. This was some of the warmth that was left over on her ends when she let it all fade. This is her natural white up at her roots. And she said, I want to do a big chop haircut, get as much of this color off my ends as you can, and just keep the top shade a very light silver, like even lighter than what we were doing before. So after her big chop, yeah, this is Teresa. After her big chop, we stopped doing the silver tone over time, and we went to a very subtle low light. Very, 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 very subtle little slate color low light, which is what you see in the 2019 picture. Because she has so much white up top, it was like too much. And today she's fully white. Like today she's just completely grown it out because she wanted to try that for fun. And she knows she can always go back to little low lights. She knows she can always go back to silverized white. And she got tons of compliments when we used to silverize because there was all of this like kind of violet hue in there, and it was like unnatural but pretty. So that was Teresa. You can see 2012, she's beginning with her very Italian dark look. 2015, we're in the process of taking her lighter. By 2016, you can see her roots have gotten much lighter, and she's grown out a significant amount of her dark ends. They're in her temple zone. Towards the end of 2016, we let lots of color fade out, and we did a big chop. And then 3 years later, she was just doing teeny tiny low lights. And I mean, her maintenance is infrequent. I do her hair maybe once every 12 weeks. So it is very low maintenance when you think of how frequently she's in the salon. All right, so I'm stopping the share for a second to see if we have any questions. Oh, great. We have some great questions. So one question is, if you do have a soft regrowth line, because maybe you've been just doing demi, maybe you didn't have a full white growth anywhere on your head and you just had the sprinkles of silver, which I'm going to be an example of someone whose hair goes that way. My mom, who I've been working with a long time, has hair that was like very evenly dispersed, maybe 30% gray, maybe 50 in the back. So if you've been able to manage blending with demi-permanent, what happens when you're starting to get a lot more of the white and you might want to transition into that? So to answer that question, the Greyscale grow out method that I'm describing right now with Teresa can be used on your hair as well. So every time we retouch it or low light it, we take it a little lighter, a little lighter, a little lighter with every visit to the salon. And the wider you can stretch out your visits, so the more regrowth you have, the better. How we determine that is, what is your threshold of comfort? Like if you can wait 12 weeks, awesome. But if it starts to bother you around 8, I'll see you at 8. And your ends as well. Of course, if your hair needs to be cut, I'm going to have you come in as frequently as your hair needs to be cut. Someone else asked specifically about Teresa. Between 2016 and 2019, how often was she still having her hair colored or toned? Okay, great. I'm just going to go back to that picture so that you guys can see it again. Well, we're looking at that. So Teresa went, okay, can you guys see the screen? Yeah, it's on screen share, good. Teresa went from seeing me in the beginning in 2012 every 4 to 6 weeks. 4 was her preference. And then as she was going into the from 2012 to 2015, I was seeing her every 6 to 8 weeks. It really had to do with her comfort zone in terms of how fast her hair was growing and how much white she was showing. But the fact that I was able to move her hair away from warm and brassy and into cool tones, that's what helped, because when her white comes in, it's a cool tone. And if you have a cool tone next to a warm tone, they look even worse. So not only is a regrowth line bad when it's high contrast, it's even worse contrast if you have cool next to warm. So as soon as we were able to move her base color into more of a cool shade, that helped. She was able to stretch things out further. So she was stretching from her 4 weeks in the 2012 world to around, I think she was starting to stretch to 6, then she went to 8, then she went to 10, and then eventually she moved her way to 12. And that was about in 2000, end of 2015, early 2016. That's when she was like, I want to let this fade as much as I can, as long as I don't mind the fade, and I'm going to do a big chop. And I just want to get as much fresh hair in there as possible, which she did. And then now I see her, pretty much she's a curly girl, right? So curly girls don't have to come in as frequently as straight-haired women because it takes their hair longer to appear grown in. And they grow at the same rate, but their hair, it shrinks up a little as it grows. So I see her now anywhere from every 12 to 16 weeks, just depending. And when she was doing low lights, we would low light either every time or every other time, just depending on what she was feeling. Because like I said, it's low maintenance. It doesn't look bad when the regrowth comes in. So if she was feeling too bright and too white up here, I would do it every 12 weeks. If she was feeling like, yeah, I kind of like it, then we would do it every other time. It's just up to her. And that's nice because it puts the power back in your hands. It's not so much anxiety, right? Which brings me to my next point. We are going to talk about gray play. I haven't forgotten about vibrant shades, but I want to talk about, if you are thinking about going natural, or if you are thinking about moving in the direction of blending or enhancing, how to have a consultation. it's our job as a professional to give you an amazing consultation, but not everybody specializes in color, and not everyone who colors specializes in helping people go gray. So I want to encourage you to shop for the right stylist. Obviously, I'm here, so there's an aspect of self-promotion, but you might be in another state. You might not be able to see me for whatever reason. So definitely find the right fit for yourself. If you choose to pay for an in-depth consultation, it will reduce your anxiety because you'll be able to create a really good game plan. And in the long term, you are going to save money. So even if you have to pay to speak with a few people, it's worth it. Some people offer free consultations, others don't. It really depends on the level of demand they're in. It's so worth it. Think of it as an interview. You're getting the chance, just like if you're working with a contractor, the process of going natural, especially if you're going to go fully all natural eventually, the process can really take quite a few years. Some of that might be your decision because you're not ready to go all natural right away, but some of it might be you're just at such a dark starting point and you're at such a light regrowth line that it's going to take you a couple years to get there. So you're starting a relationship with someone that you're going to be managing for a while. So make sure that you really trust that person and you're embarking on a journey with them. Are they the person that you want to get emotional support from while you're going through this process? Are they the person that you want to get professional advice from? And I'd like you to consider these things while you prepare for your consult. What is your motivation? Like, are you doing this for the right reason? And I just ask you because there's going to be a point. I just got to stop Instagram for a second because the live video stops at a certain point and then we have to start it over again. So for those following on Instagram, they're suddenly not able to hear me. Okay. Just hopping back on Instagram real quick for those people. Thanks for the pause, guys. Grab yourself a drink if you need to. Technical stuff. I'm so glad you all are watching. Thank you for joining me today. Okay, so we're just going back to live on Instagram for people who may have been watching. Okay. Welcome back, guys. All right. So how do you know if you're doing it for the right reason? I can't tell you what your motivation is, but I can tell you that somewhere in the process, it will be hard for you. If you're truly trying to go all natural at some point, there's going to be a moment where you feel frustrated and discouraged. And I'm not saying like, I don't want you to do it. I really want you to do it, but I want you to be able to get over that hump. You can ask any of my clients that really went all the way. So if we go back through these pictures, Teresa had this experience because she's so white and she was going so much lighter. And Michelle had this experience. Anyone who has a lot of white underneath, Diane had this experience where they were doing something that some people don't understand. And they got some flack for it in the process because there's a weird transition point where you're trying to get where you want to be eventually, and someone doesn't understand why you have light and dark. And they just might have a comment or two, and it might be a sidebar comment, and it might be a backwards comment, and it might be not even meant to be impolite, but it ends up being really impolite. And you're just gonna have to be able to like mentally and emotionally brace yourself for, I know my end result, I know I want to embrace my natural look, and there's going to be some people that don't understand on the journey. So I really want you to know that you are doing it for the right reason and that you truly want it when you start. Inspiration. It is so good for you to understand where you want to go if you do a Pinterest board or an inspiration board. I really, really want you guys to like consider putting a Pinterest board together of women who look similar to you. So women who have skin tone like you, hair texture like you, that have variations on gray. And you will see that there are so many different variations. Not everything is smoky silver. Not everything. Some is sandy, right? Some is like stone colors. You look at pebbles on a beach. Some shades of flake are really light. Other shades are really dark. Some are peppery. So there's not like one and only one version of gray. And so I want you to see some pictures of women who are wearing it differently and have different placements in their hair, and look for women who look like you. I think that's a really big deal. I would love you to write a list of all your questions and concerns so that when you do talk to your stylist and you're doing a consultation, you're prepared. Some of the questions I get all the time are like, how long is this going to take? Can I do it right away? How frequently do I have to be at the salon? Some of the questions that you guys asked. Is this going to look bad? Can I pull this off? Is there anything else I need to know? And what I like people, well, I will go through my list of advice after this slide. I would also like you during your consultation to be ready to listen. So bring all your questions, but really listen. And I'm not saying the person who you're consulting with is going to have all the right answers, but I want you to listen to the points they're making and the points they're not saying, the things they might be neglecting, to figure out if that person is a good fit for you. Because there are a lot of stylists out there, this is just not an area that they would be strong in. And when you have a consultation, it will really cut through right away if you're listening carefully. Can they answer your questions? Are they smoothing it over like it's no big deal? Like, this is a big deal. It's going to be a long journey. Unless you're in the category of someone who's just starting to have a few little silver sparkles and you're just starting to make plans early on, then yeah, it's actually a great time to be starting that process. But if you have a lot of regrowth and you're thinking about going all natural and you have a lot of color on your ends, it's going to be a journey, and you want someone to understand and take that seriously with you. All right. So next thing in your consultation is going to be like establishing boundaries. So this is the kind of stuff that I, as a stylist consulting with a client, I'm going to figure out right away. So you'd want to listen for your stylist to be talking about some of these things. If they're not hitting these things, I'd be worried. Do you guys want me to share this slide with you? I'm just speaking off of one of my slides. It's boring. There's no picture on it. But does it help you to see the visuals of the words? Let me know if you'd like me to share the slide. Yeah, I see a thumbs up. All right, so one person, that means multiple people might want it. All right, I will share that with you, no prob. Okay. Can you see it okay? All right, so when you're talking with your stylist, this is what my consultation looks like with someone. I want to figure out how much gray they have. Are they in that silver sparkle stage where they have like less than 30%? Are they in that 50-50 stage? Are they in that they're over 70%? And even if they only have a few sparkles, do they have like a streak somewhere? And so it's imbalanced. Like the clients you saw, some of them had really bold streaks in one area. So they had a lot of dark and a lot of light, and they're trying to figure out how to bring those two together. So I'm assessing how much gray they have. The next thing on assess is expectations. What is their inspiration board looking like? What is their end result expectation? Is it achievable? I had to be so honest with Teresa in the beginning. It just wasn't achievable at the speed she wanted it. And we had so many conversations. Like for instance, hey, is that Teresa? I hope it is. Hi, I love telling your story. One conversation was, yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to do that overnight. I will try my best to do the full retouch, but I have to see how much pigment is left underneath there when I fully bleach all of your hair, and it might not be what you're hoping for it to be. And so I'm like figuring out her expectations and also giving her like realistic expectations. I also explained to her that she's learned how to embrace her curl and her curls were amazing. But when I go in there and do that many chemical processes on curls, even using the gentlest versions of things and even using the best support products, it's going to compromise and change her curl. And I had to explain to her, like, your curls, you might not love them as much. You might feel like you want to cut your hair after this. And she had it in her head that she was going to have the gray and the length as soon as possible, like within that first year, second year. And I was like, no, you might have the gray but not have all the length because you want to cut a lot of those ends off. Or you might have the length but not have the color exactly where you want it. So just being very realistic about what we can achieve given the time frame. Also, if somebody can go through a massive shift in one appointment, which not everybody can, but if somebody could, realistically explaining this is going to be a day in the salon. Like, you're going to be with me for over 4 hours. You're going to be with me for like a long time because this is multiple appointments happening in one day, where you could do this slowly and gradually in the next year, and you'll be with me for 2 to 3 hours at a salon, at a sitting in the salon. So like expectations, really important. So we're assessing how much gray they have. We're assessing expectations of the client, and I'm establishing expectations. The next thing I assess is the hair integrity itself. Like, is this hair going to be able to handle a certain amount of chemical processing? Because if the hair doesn't have the integrity to handle, I couldn't even offer highlights or a bleach retouch or a bleach, like a full bleach experience. Like, I know that we see pictures of celebrities. I know that we see pictures of women on Pinterest that are doing these dramatic changes in one day. We are not seeing how their hair looks at home a month later. We're not able to see the amount of stress that it went through and how potentially unhappy they are with it. So I just want to remind you guys that like hair integrity is a big deal. And as a stylist, if your stylist that's chatting with you doesn't address that or isn't concerned with that, it's a problem. Time. How many visits is it going to take to arrive at this look or arrive at your end result? So your stylist should be able to give you like an idea, like, oh, well, if you want to come in over the course of time, this might take you a couple years to arrive there, but you'll get to a place where you like it around the 1 year mark. So just establishing that as well. Finances. So the investment aspect of this. Do you want to change as fast as possible? It's going to cost you more. Or do you want to spread it out and do it slower, but you're also spreading the cost out and it's gentler on the hair? So with that in mind, I did throw this graph out here. This is actually a business concept that I stole from college. I just loved it. It never ever left me. We would go through this every time we were talking about cost, speed, and quality, because I went to school for fashion, and hair is a fiber, and this is how things work, right? So it works this way in business, and it works this way with your hair. If you want something done really fast and you want it done at a lower cost, the quality is not going to be as great. And so basically those 3 different triangles, whatever 2 you have, the third one is where you're going to have to bend a little bit. If you want something done really fast at the highest quality, the cost is going to be the most intense. If you want something done at the highest quality, at the lowest cost, the speed is going to be a lot slower. It's going to happen slower. So just keep those in mind. You can't have all 3 at the same time. All right, so we talked about preparing for a consultation. We talked about reducing anxiety by having really good, coming in prepared, understanding your motivation, having your inspiration board, having your questions ready, and listening very carefully to what your stylist says. We talked about establishing boundaries and what that will look like in a consultation. and some of the things that your stylist should be touching on. And finally, we talked about planning for the future. If you choose to book a consult with me, I understand that it's a weird time where we're all in quarantine and we're trying to plan for the future. So what you can do is a video consult. I created an entire, it's called Calendly, booking calendar, where you can go on, you can create a video consult. There is a price for a consultation. It's the same price that it would be if you came to the salon. And it basically gives you a chance to ask all those really, really personal questions that, you know, can't be answered in a group dynamic like this. And it gives us the chance to look at your hair together. Also, if you're not sure that you're ready or you're not in planning mode yet, you want to do your research, just like we were talking about with that Pinterest board together, figure out where you want to go. You can always book with us later. We have online booking through our website. And if you're a pre-existing client, you might not only have the website to book on, but you would have an app where you can also book your appointments. It's the same booking system that we use on our website. So I would just encourage you guys, if this is something that you're thinking about, or you're trying to figure out, definitely have a consultation. It's worth the time. It's worth the time. It's worth the time. If you are a pre-existing client and you just simply need to check in and figure out a game plan for what to do next, you're not necessarily trying to make a massive shift, you're just stuck, those consultations that you can book through Calendly are called free 15-minute consultations. So for pre-existing clients, definitely come and check in with us. You don't have to pay for that. We want to support you and make sure that you have a plan for what's next. And we're going to be doing another Wednesday live session, and we're going to be doing it on a totally different topic. These are 3 really popular topics right now, and these are topics that I teach frequently. This one I haven't taught to clients very often because I do it in consultation form so much. So this one's new. I've taught it only to professionals. But next week, we're going to be doing my most requested class at the Rochester Granary. And I'm doing a mini version of how to create a capsule wardrobe for all you out there who are organizing and in your closet and trying to decide what to buy online and doing spring cleaning and all that fun stuff. So that will be next Wednesday as well. But in the meantime, if you want to chat about anything we talked about in the last 3 weeks, curls, color, you need to create your own game plan and you're not already a client, you can book a Calendly consultation with me. If you want to talk gray, book a Calendly consultation. If you're already a client, come on over to Calendly and book a 15-minute chat. And if you have any questions regarding the content of today, I'm going to go ahead and stay on for like another 5 to 10 minutes while people disperse and slowly leave. And I will be here to answer questions. Anyone who wants to stay and hear the questions, great. Any questions that I may have missed, I'll be more than happy to answer on the Parlor Facebook wall afterwards. Or if you leave them in on Instagram, I will answer them there as well. I have so enjoyed having this time with you guys. Last thing, for those of you who are like, this is very educational, I'm still on the fence, I'm not sure what to do, and I'm not loving this regrowth line. Tomorrow, Haley and I are going to be jumping on Instagram split screen, and we're going to be talking about root retouch kits. So it's not permanent color, it's not semi-permanent color, it's a powder kit or a spray where you can go ahead and you can powder your root or spray it to disguise that color difference and help get you through quarantine. So yeah, I will be showing and demoing how that works tomorrow. And I just want you guys to know, if you are interested in a kit, you can order it through the salon on our website, parlorsalonrock.com. And it is water resistant. So if you're concerned about if it rains or if you sweat, it's really helpful just to get you through these weird little humps. So I'm here. I am waiting. Oh, Karen, thank you for joining. I am waiting for questions to come in. So I'm going to start reading them. All right. Okay. So going back to Susan's question, she was using demi-permanent color to retouch, and she's interested in fully growing her hair color in. She's in a really good position to start transitioning to blending with low lights, probably. Okay, yeah, we talked about that. Somebody asked, what classes do you teach at the Brainery? Any updates and any updates on when salons will reopen? Okay, so historically, I have taught at Rochester Brainery quarterly the Curly Girls Guide, where I do a beginner intro to curls class. Pardon me a moment. It always sells out. We have so many people interested in test driving curls and understanding their curls. Before I became a curl specialist, I started out as a color specialist, and then I moved into specializing in curls as well. And the beautiful thing about color and curls is that it's all about hair integrity. If you want good curls, you need good hair integrity. If you want great color, where your canvas looks really shiny and healthy, you need good hair integrity. So it just makes sense to me. I love it. I also teach some image consulting, like personal coaching style topics at the Brainery. I typically teach quarterly how to create a capsule wardrobe, and I also teach how to dress for your body shape. So I'm gonna do next week a mini version of how to create a capsule wardrobe, because it can be a pretty long class and it requires like some interaction. So I'm gonna just give a slice of that class. And then if you want to join, come join. I haven't set up any dates to teach at the Brainery right now, but that is probably coming down the pike. I just finished a maternity leave. So I was taking a break from teaching for the last 6 months or so. When will salons reopen? Well, New York on pause has recently said May 15th. That's the last date we've gotten. But who really knows? We're all waiting to find out. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Kate, so much for your lovely comment. Okay, what is the average age for starting the blending transitioning to natural gray? Oh, such a great question. There is no age. I know that people want to gray gracefully, and they know that as women age, they oftentimes do not want to look like they're trying too hard. I so appreciate that, and that is my goal to help you with that. But here's the thing. There's trending gray right now, meaning like there's a very popular look for really young women to actually color their hair in slate tones. So gray has no age. Transitioning to gray, it's when you start having little pieces of white or gray pop through your hair. I'm starting to have that. I'm 35. I would say it's really, for me, I'm late too. I would say that like my friends were starting in their early 20s. So I'm about 10 years late compared to some women. And what happens is these women in their 20s start covering their gray fully because they feel too young to have white or gray show. But then by the time you're hitting your mid 30s, early 40s, you're so tired of having that like constant heavy retouch all the time. So I just happen to be getting my silver sparkles much later in the game. And because I'm a natural sandy tone in my hair, like I have a natural kind of ash tone, it really doesn't jump out very much. And I utilize my gray. I do gray play. Oh, I forgot to show you guys the slide of gray play. I will for those of you who are still here. I do unnatural or natural colors right on top of my gray pieces, and I color them that color so they blend into the rest of the hair. So I totally forgot to show you this funky slide. This is gray play. So this is for the person that doesn't necessarily want to go gray, but they want to use their gray. I mean, these clients, these are funky ladies. This is the same client, Melissa. when she came into me, she had natural regrowth and fully bleached hair. So we added smoky and berry tones into her hair, and we gave her like a smoky retouch because that was a trend at the time. And it still is. It's just, she was really digging it. And then when her blonde grew out, she had so much natural white under her hair. I was like, why are we even using bleach on you? And if you look over here in her picture where she's this like blueberry violet, you see how there's some really light pieces that are really vibrant, and then there's really dark pieces. Those really light, unnatural looking blueberry pieces are her white. Her white, which didn't have any like, I didn't have to like lighten it or anything, picked it up so pretty. So we aren't necessarily with gray play clients, we're not necessarily looking for things to be blended or all natural. We're just utilizing the gray to our advantage. Donna is so funky. She's in her 70s. There is just no age, right, to have fun. She has an all natural head of white hair. And so we use really fun colors in her hair. And because I'm using the technology, the Illumin technology that I use, it does not fade ugly. It fades so pretty, and it lasts for such a long time. It adheres so well to natural virgin hair. And so Donna has been all kinds of shades. Oftentimes she's a fashion lover and she'll bring me a textile. So she'll bring me something like a pillowcase or a color palette. Sometimes it's like what the color of the year is. Sometimes it's just something that's making her feel happy. And she'll be like, can you put the color of this in my hair? And we'll decide how we want to do it. So Donna's been all different colors. And just depending how long her hair is, will change how many different colors I'll put in. Because short hair, her pixie cut limits it a little bit. But yeah, the gray play is so fun with Illumin. And that's what I do for myself as well. I will, if I want to do like, again, I love that apricot. I love rose gold. I will avoid lightening as much as possible. I might put a few highlights through to like blend things from my natural ash tone to the bottom, but then I'll use the gray. And the area where I have silver sparkles will usually have a more like playful, prismatic look because the hair is such better integrity. It works so well. Also, for those of you interested in learning more about the process, there's these two really good books. Going Gray Beauty Guide by Jan Rogers and Silver Hair, also written by the former founder of Diva Curl, Lorraine Macy, who went silver herself. They're awesome. I highly recommend them. They'll give you a lot of inspirational pictures and stuff like that. All right, any more questions? No, it looks like I've got most of the questions from Zoom, and it looks like we don't have any burning questions over in the Facebook world. So thank you for joining me. I will see you guys next week, Wednesday. It might not be from the salon. It might be from my bedroom. It was so nice to see you all. Thank you. Send me questions if you have any more. And I'll put the Calendly link on the Parlor Facebook wall for you all. Bye. 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 See you later.